Welcome to the Mixing Babies and Business podcast. I'm your host, Amy Lynch. I'm covering all things parenthood, business, flexible, and remote work with kids. Think of it as your virtual village where you can tune into stories from other business and community leaders who also happen to be parents negotiating for their needs, taking up space, and navigating the future of work. Season 6 is sponsored by the Mixing Babies and Business Changemaker program for people who want to do things differently, create an impact, and advocate for primary caregivers and their families along the way. Sign up to learn more at mixingbabiesandbusiness.com/changemaker. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, like, follow, and leave a review online. It helps other parents find the podcast. Rita Piçarra is a parent, author, speaker, and former chief financial officer at Microsoft Portugal. With over 20 years of experience in finance and leadership roles spanning the United States, Brazil, France, Spain, and Portugal, Rita spoke with me about everything from innovating in leadership, investing in yourself, and the importance of financial literacy. This is the third and final part of our conversation. Let's get into it. I'm not a financial advisor. My background is in journalism and marketing, but I have used that to find out information. And I've read a lot of library books. I've spoken with, there's an organization in Canada called the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, which advocates for financial literacy for the general population, but they also hold the banks and other financial institutions accountable. So they kind of have this double mandate. And back 8 years ago, when I first became a parent, my initial business idea was to improve financial literacy, focusing on millennial age women. But what I found when I was interviewing people and in market research was a lot of people, when you ask about their biggest fear, it was their future, retiring with either no one to look after them or not enough money in the bank to cover their cost of living, and to be in a situation that perhaps they spent all of their money or their time and their attention raising their kids early on in life. And you do see this in statistics where women on average miss out on like a 10 to 12 year gap in the workforce participation, which then has the impact in future. So a big learning for me was understanding what is compound interest. We also have quite a bit of student debt in Canada in that you have to pay for your education. Where my husband's from, he became a chartered accountant without having to pay tuition for the 4-year degree necessarily, the same as what we pay in Canada. And in other countries we've lived in, they have HECS debt, which is prorated to your salary to pay it back. So depending on what country you're listening from, there's different government programs to support you to get educated. And then sometimes there's not. And paying down your debt as well, alongside trying to save and invest, is very important, because there's quite a bit of people now that are going through these big milestones of becoming parents, buying a house, and then also trying to pay off student loans from maybe 20 years ago. So it's super important, and just getting comfortable talking to your friends and, maybe your family. It's not the place for you to speak about this if you don't have the same views, but just asking questions. As you say, there are nonprofits and organizations that have people that can help you that don't have an agenda, like someone who may be on commission, as you mentioned. So thank you very much for that very detailed explanation, but it is such an important topic.
Yeah, reading books. For me, it has always been crucial. Reading books. Don't believe everything that you listen on the internet, okay? Because there's a lot of scams also. If there's a book, usually it's from a published author. There's a lot of good ones that you can read. And you mentioned something that is very crucial. I didn't want to enter anything very detailed, but the compound growth and the compound interest, it's really, really, really important to understand investments. And I usually draw it out as, imagine you're building a house. You need to put the first brick. If you put the first brick of your house when you're 25, let's say $50 investment saved somewhere, and you put that first $50, that first brick towards the house when you're 25, by the age of 35, you have at least a wall built. But if you put the first brick when you're 35, you're losing everything before. Or it's just like a snowball that you throw from the top of a mountain. It starts really small. You just need to start it really, really early. And the highest you throw it, the bigger it's going to get once it gets down here. So If you go to the top of the mountain and throw the ball, that's you invest at the age of 25. But if you only throw it halfway through the mountain by the age of 40, then you get a much smaller avalanche, you get a much smaller snowball by the end of the mountain.
And we're very lucky to live in a time like now where I think of my grandmothers who didn't have access to maybe getting a credit card in their name, owning property, starting their own business, getting financing for a business loan if they wanted to do that. There's just so many barriers that we haven't had to face necessarily in this generation. And we owe it to ourselves as parents to try to educate ourselves and talk about that openly with our kids. I just wanted to switch to a few questions about your daughter and your experiences with her and whether you've learned anything from her that has surprised you as a parent and a human being.
Oh my God, a lot. A lot. My daughter is the most caring person that you can imagine. Even last weekend, we were spending the weekend with my mother-in-law in the Algarve, and we left the pet here at home because it was just 2 days. So it's fine that the bunny stays alone for 2 days in the garden. It's completely fine. It's all covered. It's all good. And she was in this dilemma where she really wanted to stay with grandma alone 2 days because grandma is alone and she doesn't have a partner and she lives alone. But at the same time, she was missing the pet very much and she did want to come home to see the pet again. So she was just crying and she wouldn't decide because she couldn't pick between grandmother and pet. And her mind was just blocked and she was crying because she wanted to be, close to both things. But at the same time, she couldn't decide in her compassion and her empathy. And she would only be able to part with grandmother once grandmother got hold of her and said, Teresa, it's okay. Grandma can be alone 2 days. You'll come back in 2 days. So it's all going to be good. You can go. But the willingness of her to be able to do something that would make her sad, which would be away from the pet, just to make another human being happy, is just, for me, it's mind blowing. She would be able to give so much of her to others that is just beyond my comprehension.
I always feel like kids are so pure and they're here to remind us of all the layers we've built on top of ourselves, all the walls that we've put up against other people and have to strip back if we choose to strip those away and become more empathetic. And kids are just a constant reminder of they're so empathetic and they're so compassionate. And it shows you even like where you're being hard on yourself that you didn't even realize you're being hard on yourself. I like to always ask guests, we're in the future, Teresa has grown up. What kind of world do you hope that she grows up in? And how is what you're focused on now and in the future contributing to that, if at all?
When she's grown up, so no more, mommy, I'm hungry.
Yeah, just what kind of world do you hope that she gets to experience? And you're still speaking to people, as you say, you're speaking about financial literacy, you're open to, your agenda is still busy speaking to people about all the topics that you're passionate about. How do you feel maybe in the next 2 decades you would like the world to be a bit different than maybe what you experienced as a parent? And how do you feel like you've been able to impact that, if at all?
So many things, so many things. I don't know if it's going to be possible at all. Sometimes I really feel disappointed in the world and the way that it's going, and pollution and sustainability and the way we're dealing with nature. For me, it really throws my heart, and it's really, really bad. And every day climate change, it's really, really bad. So for me in the future, what I hope for Teresa is that we treat nature with kindness and we make sure that we put nature in front of our decisions, and we make sure that we take care of the home where we live. Because if we continue to go on the direction that we're going, I don't know if there's a future for them, to be honest. I don't know if they're going to have a planet to grow old in. And so I really hope that the generation to come will make a better job than what we're doing currently, to be honest, for their sake, since we failed miserably. That's my opinion.
Well, you're spending time surfing in the ocean and you always seem to talk about going to the beach on weekends with your family being very special, and just really having that connection outside of your four walls, your neighborhood or your office. So it's probably a good start. And getting,
Yeah,
it
no,
sounds like she's an animal lover with the bunny.
yeah, no, and we do our best, right? We collect, we do a lot of volunteering around here. We do collect the garbage at the beach. We do a lot of things we planted trees in several different places. We're doing our part, but I don't know, the high expectations for the future, but my hopes are not as high.
Yeah, it's always a question that I find people it's an emotional one because we can't control the future, and you also want to give your kids the best opportunities, but there's a lot of letting go that has to happen as well. You're a great example, though, of somebody who you're not just talking about things that need to be done. You're trying to make a small dent in it, whatever your impact can be as one individual. And a lot of your achievements have shown that when you collaborate with people, you can have a greater impact. So I really thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, Rita. And is there any way that you would like our audience to connect with you if they wanted to get in touch with you?
People can reach me in LinkedIn, in my LinkedIn profile or my Instagram account. I usually respond to everyone. So if you have any questions, if I can help you in any way, shape, or form, please do let me know, send a message, and I'll be happy to connect.
Thank you very much for your time, Rita.
You too. It was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you. If you come to Portugal, let me know. You're welcome anytime.
Oh, well, I'll be in touch in future. So thank you so much. Thank you again to Rita for taking part of her day to speak with me about parenthood, working in different environments as she raised her daughter, and the importance of financial literacy. If you'd like to learn more about the financial independence retire early movement and how you can build a life outside of work and what that might look like for you, get in touch with Rita on LinkedIn at Rita Piçarra. That's RitaPicarra. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, or follow and leave a review. It helps other parents around the world find the podcast. Connect with me online and access your parent-friendly professional development, entrepreneurship, flexible and remote work resources at mixingbabiesandbusiness.com. Thanks for listening.